And when you think about the goal of $1 billion, like, is there a date you've got in mind that you're like, this is when it's happening? And do you feel like you're on track to that?
I do think we're on track to that, which is cool. There's definitely like room for luck, which is cool. And we've definitely had a few, I'll call them lucky breaks. But, you know, to what I think somebody wrote a great article on like 4 levels of luck. I feel like you would have been exposed to something like this. Yep. But, you know, you can increase your luck surface area. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do with the content and whatnot has been to deliberately create more luck, you know, for ourselves. And so that has worked. I think that if we were just take the actual money and just put it in the S&P and just if it compounded at whatever 9.7% for the next 40 years or 30 years, we'd hit it kind of regardless. But I'm hoping to beat that. And so you know, if we can do it in 5 to 7, that would be pretty cool. And so that's like if my honest answer to like what are you really shooting for is probably 5 years.
5 years. And, you know, I love that Peter Thiel kind of frame. I'm sure you've played it through your head a lot, you know, the idea of like, what's your 5-10 year goal? Mm-hmm. How would you go and accomplish that in 1 year? You know, either dialing up like better people, better systems, better opportunities, you know, like when you think about ways to accelerate that vision, like what comes to mind?
I think it's all about opportunities. It's opportunities. Because if you think about like, because I mean, I talk a lot about leverage, so difference between what you put in and what you get out. And there are a few things that give greater leverage than the opportunity vehicle that you're pursuing. And so like, if you run a local business or a restaurant, for example, you may work 80 hours a week to make that restaurant successful. If you run a platform that, you know, creates aggregated buying power for all restaurants to buy together, and then you make some sort of spread on that, then you still probably work 80 hours a week, but you probably have a significantly larger opportunity. And so it's just like making sure that we pick, you know, the right boat, to use Warren Buffett's analogies, to be in the right boat. And I think that's where like strategy and having people who are ahead of you, because the biggest thing when I was starting out was that I just didn't understand any of this stuff. And just like how much leverage you can get on opportunity. And so it's like, if you have one successful gym, they're like, you're never going to make $100 million on one gym. It's just not going to happen. And so just stating that fact outright really does shift your behavior into like, what opportunity could I put the same 5 years into, and it could result in $100 million or $1 billion or $10 billion. And then just being ruthlessly selective about those things. And I think that from an entrepreneurship perspective, what really happens, like the rich get richer, sure, because they get smarter, but I think a lot of it is because what they choose to not pursue. And so like when I was starting out, I would be really excited about a $10,000 a month opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you make $100,000 a month, and then basically you can say no to everything that's below that. But then all of a sudden, other $100,000 a month opportunities seem like a double. You're like, oh my God, this could be huge. And this is where the shiny object syndrome gets really dangerous. But I don't think the shiny object syndrome really disappears ever. I think it's just the opportunities just look better. And so you can easily, you've leveled up to the point where I can say no to a $10,000 a month opportunity now, or $100,000 or even $1 million a month opportunity. But like, it's still hard to turn down a $10 million a month opportunity. Yeah. Right. And so that's where I think some of the discipline and one of the hardest parts of entrepreneurship is like knowing when to push and knowing when to pivot.
It reminds me of that Naval Ravikant quote around finding your kind of ideal hourly rate and making it super ambitious. You know, I think there's a lot of people that undercut themselves early on, thinking that their hourly rate's $20 an hour, $100, maybe $1,000 opportunity, and trying to get that to like, say, naming a $5,000 an hour or $10,000 an hour. Now you start to look at everything a lot different, where you're spending your time, who you're hiring, the kind of tasks you delegate. And, you know, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that kind of self-limiting belief that their time's not worth that much. So they'll just do that extra thing or do that themselves, when really, you know, it's something that they should either pass on, say no to, or delegate.
Yeah. That is it's a really interesting frame. And just for back of napkin for everybody here, like just multiply whatever your hourly rate is by 2,000, and that's what you make per year. You know, there's a lot of like work smarter, not harder, especially in like the Twitter sphere, which I think is where we first, you know, connected. It's easy to say work smarter, not harder. But the problem is, in order to get smarter, you have to work hard. So it's like you have to work hard to get smart in order to then work smarter, not harder. So like you really can't avoid the hard work part. You get there one way or another.
Yeah, you can't just name that hourly rate, then just sit back and just wait for it to happen.
Yeah, this is it. I only work for $5,000 an hour. And everyone's like, okay, no, because you don't have that skill. And then that, like, okay, now where do we go? So I think you kind of earn the right. And so there's, you know, it's just like reality is gray. You know, it's not black and white. It's like you go into it, like you level up your skill. And then I think Peter Thiel, actually, it was, you know, value created in the marketplace multiplied by your ability to negotiate to capture that value. The third piece that I would add to that is the amount of supply demand around the skill. So it's like, there's this much skill that comes from a salesperson. This is how well, the salesperson can negotiate their comp and how many other people can do the job. And so it's like, ideally you want to be able to create tremendous value, have very good skills at negotiating, and have no one else who can do it. And then at that point, when you put those three things together, you can pretty much name your own price.
Yeah.